Hi, this is JP Morgan.
And I'm Julia Rose, today's model.
Julia's here to help me illustrate what high-speed sync is, why you use it, what you're trying to accomplish with it, and then just how to set it up. I'll give you a great example. It's a little noisy here, but here we go. First off, what is high-speed sync? High-speed sync is the ability to sync your strobes with faster shutter speeds in 1/200th of a second. That's basically all it is. But why do you want to do that? You want to do that because I've got a very bright scene behind me here, and I can't control that with my shutter unless I can go past 1/200th of a second. So I want my aperture at 2.8, which means I want to be wide open. That means this background back there is going to be at least an 8,000th of a second. That's super, super bright. Now, if I go to shoot my strobes, I can't sync them at 8,000th of a second. So I can do one of two things. I can set Julia Rose out in the sun, and I can sync that just fine because she has the same bad light on her face as we have in the background. Or I can bring her into the shade, I can soften the light on her with a strobe, and now I can start to try to balance the background to my strobe light on the foreground. But I can only do that by using high-speed sync, which allows me to sync my strobes at faster than 1/200th of a second. The reason is because cameras have a focal plane shutter. This is a focal plane shutter. You go to take a picture, open, close, open, close, open, close, open, close, open, close. That's a focal plane shutter. There's a moment all the way up to 1/200th of a second where it opens, the entire sensor is exposed, and then it closes. After 1/200th of a second, it goes like this: open, close, open, close, open, close, open, close, open, close. Faster, faster, it goes open, close. Just a tiny little slit. The first one goes across, and the second one follows it. So it's going like this, and all it does is leave a little slit that burns across the sensor. There's never a time when the entire sensor is open for a strobe to go off. So if the strobe goes off while this is going through, all you're going to expose is a small little strip of Julia Rose's face. So we have to go to high-speed sync. And what does that mean? The strobe is going to pulse the entire time that the shutter is going. So pulse, 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 and it's going to paint the image in as it goes across the subject matter. So every section as it goes across will get pulsed in, but it does it so fast, it doesn't cause any movement or problems, and you get your image. That's why we use high-speed sync. I now have the ability to go to 2.8, bring Julia Rose into the shade where I get soft light on her face, get a nice beautiful light on her face from the strobe, and then match that to the background by crushing my background with a very, very fast shutter speed. So I got 2.8, very fast shutter speed, and a pulsing strobe, pulse, 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 that paints in my image. So let's set one of these up. I had Julia Rose over in the sun. If I keep her in the sun where the background and foreground are the same exposure, there's my image. It looks okay, but I want to soften the light on her face. So I'm going to bring her into the shade. Now that I'm in the shade, I'm going to take my first exposure. My first exposure, I'm going to meet her for the background. Julia Rose is very dark. So now I'm going to take an exposure for her face. Now the background is blown out. So I've got to use my strobes to balance these two. To set up high-speed sync with the Bajas, I'm going to put the transmitter on my camera, turn it on. I'm going to hold down the high-speed sync button to where it's blinking. There we go. Then on the back of the Baja, I'm going to hold down the top button, HSS button, till it goes to the H now. I can go H7, 6 down to 1, which is the least power, up to 7, which is the most power. Now I can high-speed sync. So we're going to start with 7 with the most power, and we're going to do a shot and see what we get. So there's H7, and it's just way too bright, so I'm going to dial it down to H4. There's an exposure at H4. Still a little too bright. I'm going to dial it down to H2. That looks much better to me. So it becomes a creative decision now at this point. Do you want your background brighter or darker? And how is that going to balance? It's up to you to make that decision on what you creatively like. It looks nice. So here's some images I shot at different shutter speeds, just playing with that background, just seeing what it looks like. Julia Rose is beautiful. These images look fabulous. Take a look. Set your shutter and then dial your strobes to match it. That's the secret to high-speed sync. When you change your shutter, redial your strobes to match it, because it's going to change them. That's all based on the principle that 2.8 or 3.2, whatever aperture you've chosen, is not changing. Keep that constant. You're going to change your shutter until the background looks right and dial your strobes to match it. So there you have it, how to do high-speed sync. I love high-speed sync because it gives you so much control when you're out on location. But this is really specific to the Baja B6. Check out your platform. Make sure you know how to use your platform because it's going to be different. Look at your manual, test it, practice with it, because when you get out on location, you want to be able to do it quickly and just really seamlessly so you get the great shots. If you want to make the transition from just natural light to strobe light, get our Mastering Studio Strobes download. It's at theslantlens.com. It's going to teach you what strobes you should buy, how to use them, and has all kinds of lighting setups. It'll help you perfect the skill and be using strobes in no time. So get over to theslantlens.com. So make sure you subscribe to us on The Slanted Lens. We want you to be a part of our family. Like us on Facebook, like us, tag us, Twitter us, Facebook us, Instagram us, do all those things. So we just keep you all with us. We love you here on The Slanted Lens. So keep those cameras rolling.
And keep on clicking.
Yeah.